I've been working on the framing for these cabinets that are going to support the top in our laundry room and straddle the washing machine and drying machine. And first thing I did was I added a little bit of extra to the feet down here because they weren't tall enough to do the job. So I have those measurements done, and I had to do that on both sides. And here I've got the two frames stacked on top of each other just because I need the space. And the next thing I did is I installed these really long drawer runners so I can put the drawers in. But that means I need to make drawers. And that's what I'm going to be turning my attention to next, using this high-tech, highly detailed precision drawing that's going to help me make the drawers. So the first step of that is to cut out this large sheet of plywood. I used my track saw to cut out the plywood bottoms, and this plywood was the only stuff that I really had to buy new. I was hoping I could use leftovers that I have lying around because I've got so much plywood left over. But I did have enough leftover plywood to be able to make the sides and the fronts, and that worked out really, really well. So my game plan here was just to build these in place so that I could get the sizing right, because I never know what to do, how to measure these things. And I'm just going to glue the sides right onto the bottom. Nothing fancy, no special joinery or anything, just getting done what needs to be done. The drawer seems to fit okay, so my measurements are probably good. So I glued the sides directly to the bottom and nailed them off, and then I used screws to hold the sides together. And then it was time to sort of trim those edges so that you don't see the plywood so much anymore. And again, I'm not trying to be too fancy here. I'm just using some offcuts of pine, pine strip, and nailing those in place, gluing them and nailing them, and hiding that plywood edge so that these boxes look like they're, well, a little bit specialer. Just a little bit specialer. And when all was said and done, it seemed to work pretty good. So I brought these down and put them into the laundry room where they're supposed to go, and the whole idea was that they straddle the washing machine and the dryer so that no weight sits on top of those machines and all this stuff is kind of up above, and it worked out really pretty well. I was surprised by how strong they are, and the drawers seem to work really, really well too, so very happy about the way all that came together. I also spent a little bit of time working on the top. Now, the top originally had this sort of orange color. It doesn't look orange here, but it had this orange color to it that was a polyurethane of some kind that just was so solid and plasticky that the sander just wouldn't take it off at all. So I had to resort to using a little power planer to take off the tops. I think it was pretty much the only way to sort of quickly remove all of that material and get down to the wood color again. So after all that work with the planer, there was an awful lot of sanding to try and clean that all up. So it has been cold, wet, and windy around here lately. And not that that's an excuse to not get on with projects, but it kind of has been. But I started working on these tops, and I have all the finish taken off of them, and they've been sanded a little bit, and are getting a lot closer to being where they need to be. So this is the main top, and I've made cutouts in the back to accommodate pipes and things. And here's the other piece of the top right here. These are rough sanded and will now need to be finish sanded. They need several coats of finish on them of some kind or another. My brother asked if it was possible to make a PT boat steering wheel modeled up and 3D printed. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? So I started looking around on the internet for a cool picture of a PT boat steering wheel, and this was the best one I could find. The problem is I couldn't find any diagrams for it. Before I could even start the 3D, I would have to make a nice flat diagram. So I started in Illustrator just drawing up the best I could do based on this one picture. And the picture isn't straight on. It's a little bit at an angle. So and that's one of the problems. I needed a nice flat diagram so I could, when I go to 3D model this, I can know exactly what it's going to look like. So here I brought it into Blender and I put it on a plane so it's nice and flat, and that's going to be my diagram for when I start to model. And so I made that diagram transparent, and I started the modeling with a donut, and I couldn't tell you how I made this. I was just following YouTube videos to figure out how to do it, but it's got a nice little profile on it. And the next thing I made was the spindle handle, which goes along there, and I need to make a bunch more of these and wrap them around so that it looks like a proper wheel, but that's as far as I've gotten. Still have to make this little bit and this little bit down here, and then it's off to the 3D printer to see if we can do this. Going super simple with the unfinished projects today. This is a little piece of model railway that I decided I would try and paint and weather a little bit to see if I could get it to look like the way I want it to look when I go to do this one over here. And the plan was that first I wanted to sort of rust it and weather it and make it look like it might look underneath the snow, which I think the snow is going to be done with these lovely decorative accent, which was on clearance. That's quite a bargain. So I was thinking about using this as ballast. It's really, really fine stone dust, and I'm hoping to use this as the ballast to glue in here and fill it in. But I thought this would be a really quick little fun project, and it hasn't happened completely yet. So we still have a little ways to go on getting that sorted out. Can't wait to see what that's going to look like. I recorded a new tune. It's Floyd Cramer's Last Date. You can check that out on my YouTube channel if you get it, if you tune in. It was kind of fun to do. I added some bass and some guitar along with the ukulele, but I found some pretty weird things doing this. I'll be very clear here, I don't really have any idea what I'm doing. I'm just kind of throwing these things together to see what'll happen, and a lot of times I'm really surprised in good ways and in bad ways when these things come together, because they never are what I thought they were going to be. But I kind of think that I overplay stuff, because if you play it by yourself, and again, I'm saying this with authority, but I really don't have any idea. It seems to me, that's how you make it all okay. You just start out with, it seems to me, and then, you know, you can say whatever you want. It seems to me, if you're playing just one instrument on its own, you're trying to fill in for the other instruments that aren't there. So you're trying to play a little bit of bass, and you're trying to play a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and fill things in a little bit. I think in guitar playing and ukulele playing, they call this a chord melody. I think that's what they call it. And I tend to do that, I think, with all my guitar playing, all my ukulele playing, and even I think on the bass probably. I'm just way overplaying. I'm playing way too many things. I'm trying to fill it in, and then it just becomes muddy. And when you put all that stuff together into one group, it's just way too much stuff trying to play. It seems to me there's a real art to being able to pull back a little bit and play simply and keep those things together. And plus, when you're recording these things one at a time, I have no idea what I'm going to do on the other instrument yet, because you know, like I say, my mind doesn't connect all this stuff, which is why I'm always surprised when these things are put together that they don't sound like what I thought they would sound like. So that's it for this time. Hopefully next time I'll have that table installed and the drawers ready to go and everything cool. Probably it's going to be a little bit longer before I can get around to putting the faces on those and trimming those out so that it looks really nice. I still have to put some sort of finish coating on those things. Moving slowly, but getting there. So that's what's going on. Isn't that the way it always is? Moving slowly and getting there. Hey, you feel free to use that anytime you want. I'll see you on the next one.